The scripture for today comes from Luke's Gospel, chapter 11, verses 33 through 36. Luke 11, 33 through 36. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it in a cellar or under a basket, but on a stand, so that those who enter may see the light. Your eye is the lamp of your body. When your eye is healthy, your whole body is full of light. But when it is bad, your body is full of darkness. Therefore be careful lest the light in you be darkness. If then your whole body is full of light, having no part dark, it will be wholly bright, as when a lamp with its rays gives you light. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Pray with me, please. Holy God, may the words of my mouth and meditations in each of our hearts be acceptable in your sight. May it bring you glory, honor, and majesty through Christ. Amen. When I was a teenager in high school, long years ago, oh my gosh, it's getting, it wasn't last year, fortunately. There was a cave out there about 15 miles out from town, right near the river, right near Yellow River, and called it Rock Cave. And it went back up in the ground, 100 yards or so, 150 yards, maybe something like that. And man, I mean, the entrance, it was a big entrance, probably about the size of this sanctuary where it started. But then once you got off down the little cave that led off from it, there was a little stream of water running in it. Man, it was just barely big enough to get through. In some places it was really tight, and it was only about this tall, so you were hunched over and trying to squeeze through spots. And of course, you had to do it, right? I mean, you had to go all the way to the end, I just had to, even though I think I've fought with claustrophobia ever since. And you take your little old flashlight, and you'd creep down through there and you'd hit your head on one of those, is it a stalagmite or a stalactite? I don't remember. But anyway, I mean, it didn't matter at the time, when you're holding your head from hitting one of them things, in the dark. But you'd kind of creep down through there, and, a bunch of old boys and what have you. Any of y'all ever done anything like that? Huh? No?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Come on. I bet you have. Well, let's see, Janet. Yeah, there you go. You need a light in the darkness, and it was vividly clear when we were in that old cave there, that rock cave way back. I don't even know. I'll have to take y'all back there sometime. How about that? And I'll let y'all go in. And I'll stand out there and watch. Okay. Yeah, that's stay right there. Go back. Yeah. Shining in the light. All right. Well, y'all notice me with my little light. Now, does that help light up this room any? Not really, right? I mean, it's pretty light in here, right? I mean, it's kind of negligible. Well, a little bit of light. It gives a little bit. You can see a little bit. Well, likewise, you and I. Maybe we can take something out of this. I love Bible studies, worship, prayer, love to be with other believers and all that. And it's easy, I think, for us to shine a light in a light place. It's easy for us to be Christians here, right? It's easy for us to be believers here where we're surrounded by other believers. We're all singing the same song, right? I mean, it's not difficult, but is it really shining much of a light into the darkness? Once I had the opportunity to go to Costa Rica on a mission trip with the church in Livingston, First Methodist Church in Livingston. Now we heard to begin with that we were going to Tamarindo, okay? And we're like, where's Tamarindo? Where's Tamarindo? So found there's a beach on the Pacific side called Tamarindo. And we're like, woo! We're going to the beach. We're going to go, do some mission work at the beach. What's wrong with that? Wrong. There's another Tamarindo, and it happens to be in a banana plantation just off of the Panama border. And every day we stayed in a place called Golfito, which is on the bay on the Pacific. But we had to take this 45-minute to an hour drive every morning and every afternoon to Tamarindo. And we went through this border town called Paso Canoas. And it was a rough place, on the border between Costa Rica and Panama. We were told, don't get out there, do not stop there, whatever you do. Because it's a place that's full of smugglers, money changers, there's a lot of drugs there, prostitution, there's all kinds of junk there in this border town, there you go. That's the border crossing in Paso Canoas. It's pretty rugged place, and there's a lot of drugs go back and forth across the border there. But you know what? That's where we're supposed to be. That's where we're supposed to be. Ted Decker, some of y'all may recognize that name. He's an author. He writes primarily novels, but there's some really cool stuff in his novels. He's a Christian writer, and one of his books is Blessed Child. And one of the things, just a kind of a gotcha in that book, was the main character's name was Caleb. And he said, we live at the boundary of our faith. We live at the border. If we say we believe in Jesus Christ, yet our life doesn't show it, in effect, we're denying Christ by the way that we live our life. We're not testing our faith. We're not stepping out and living by faith. We're living by sight, right? We're living by what we can do, what we can control. And in effect, we're atheists, because we're not shining a light to anybody. Is anybody looking at our life saying, that person is really living by faith? That person is stepping out in faith and trusting God? Well, sometimes be careful that the light you think you have isn't darkness, Jesus says. He wants us to live at the border of our faith, to continue to let Him push us to step out in faith, trusting in God. Are we doing that in the living out of our life? Case in point, Bill Pierce came up to me this morning. They made a pledge, a financial pledge to this church back in January, between them and the Lord. I don't know how much it was. I don't want to know. His job, driving a school bus, ended last week, right? And they weren't sure how they were going to honor their pledge. But they made a commitment. They said, no, we're going to honor our pledge somehow, and God will provide. Bill went up to the board last week and saw on the board that there were 20 drivers that were invited to drive this summer for summer school for for the Nacogdoches Independent School District.
Wow.
And he said, you know, if nothing else, we can honor our pledge to God and to the church. That's what I'm talking about. Are you stepping out? Are you allowing God to lead you? Are you trusting God to lead your life? Or are you dependent on your own resources? Well, our light shines brightest when we're out there in the trenches, out there in the world, amongst other people who are non-believers, and we're allowing God to work in us and through us to shine the light toward them. There was a man named Al. Al hated his job. He was the only Christian in a large group of unbelievers. And it seemed like day after day that he was fighting a losing battle. But he continued to profess faith in Christ to those other workers where he worked at. And they kind of sarcastically started calling him the Rev, because he was unashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And on September the 11th, 2001, when the first plane hit World Trade Center Tower 1, Al was on the 105th floor working for Cantor Fitzgerald. And those people that had mocked him, that had made fun of him, they turned to him in their hour of darkness. As the hopelessness settled in on them and they realized they weren't going to make it out alive. It came out weeks later, after the dust had settled, that in that hour, that Al stood up before them all, before 50 of his fellow workers, and proclaimed the gospel of Jesus Christ to them and led them in prayer. Over a month later, his wife, Jeannie, got a phone call from an MCI operator. And she said, your husband Al got through to me on that day, and he wanted me to give you a message. He wanted me to tell you I love you very much. In his final minutes on this earth, he continued to follow his God, and he loved his family, and he lived that to the end. When we got to the back of the cave, one of those times we went back there, wouldn't you know it, my old flashlight started fritzing out on me. I started beating on that thing, you know. What's wrong with this stupid light? And it finally went black. And we're at the back end of this little cave that, I mean, and when it's black in a cave, honey, it's black. It's dark. You can't see your hand in front of your face. My batteries went dead. We don't need that to happen, do we? So how do we charge our batteries so that our lights will work when we're in the darkness? You know how. Prayer. Worship. Meditating on the scriptures. Having spiritual friends and mentors that help us stay faithful. Through serving others. Through being faithful givers. Trusting God's way instead of ours. and learning to live at the border of our faith. We come here, y'all, so that we can be energized, recharged, get our batteries recharged so that we can go back out there and be lights in the darkness. So that we can shine those lights and have the power to do it. We get it from God. And we're here to help you with that. That's all we're about here. Is trying to help you for your ministry. My ministry is helping you in your ministry. I can't do it all. I'm not supposed to do it all. Y'all are the ones that are the lights in the darkness. I guarantee you right now, when people find out I'm a preacher, there's a switch they flip. I mean, it happens just that quick. You can forget about it. When people know who I am, what I do, I mean, this wall just comes up. I mean, unless they're believers, you know, if they're not believers, I guarantee you there's a wall, and they're like, stay away from me, buddy. And they may do you the same way sometimes. And they may mistreat you. They may make fun of you because of your belief. But hold firm to it. Hold firm to Christ and allow Him to renew you, to rejuvenate you, just by His Spirit's power. Okay. So how do we do that? I can't let y'all go home today without a little something, you know, from the preacher. I came up with this little handy dandy prayer guide. It's something that I use. I've got some of them back there. I hope you'll take one home, and maybe it'll help you. It may not. Take a look at it if you'd like. I think sometimes our prayer needs a little structure. Mine does. I'm ADD, y'all. I need all the help I can get. So, take one of these home and, you know, make copies of it. It's not copyrighted. Make changes to it. Do what you want to. If you want me to email you a copy, I'll email you a copy and you can put it on iPads or whatever. Just trying to help you stay plugged into the source, your true source of power. Also, we have this little ministry that y'all know about, the Bonita Friends Forever ministry. From this past school year and dealing with those children and their families, to some degree, I mean, we got to know some of them. I can't say I got to know all of them. But some of them I did, and I want to tell you that these families are struggling. I mean, they've all got issues that they're dealing with. Some of them are very, very heavy issues. I would like for you to please consider, I've also back there in that little, whatever that bowl thing is, I put a slip with a family name, like the Hall family or the Fuller family. If you would please consider taking one or two of those home and just praying for them this summer. Just praying for them that God would have a breakthrough in their world. Whatever that looks like to Him, I don't know. But He knows. Because they're all dealing with something different. I think that's a way that you and I can be lights in the darkness without really, you know, exposing ourselves too much. But God can do some mighty things in those families' lives if we intercede on their behalf. I believe that. What do y'all think?
Absolutely.
Amen.
Well, grab a name or two, if you will, and put it on the refrigerator. Do what you want to with them. Wherever you pray, wherever, just commit them to memory. I guarantee you they'll appreciate it. And, the good Lord may be just waiting on us to want to step out in faith, trusting in Him, so that something happens in their world. Who knows? I think it's worth a shot, don't you? All right.